Hi everyone, and welcome back to another Let's Build profile, this time centered on improving one of my older rogue profiles with a set of interconnected archetypes, combined with 2 extra archetypes just for style points. Oh, and do I need to mention this will be an Xyz-centric strategy? So joining the Raidraptor and the Phantom Knight archetypes today will be both the Time Thief, fan-favorite archetype, and a touch of the new Mysterune theme. So before I go on, mandatory disclaimer up front that this is supposed to inspire you to build the deck better yourself. I'm not trying to build the best deck ever with this series of videos. It's more of a proof of concept than anything else. So once again, I've queued up a set of replays here at the end, so if you aren't interested in describing this strategy with me in detail, feel free to jump to the end using the chapters of the video. So just before diving too far in, I want to call out that I have covered this hybrid Phantom Knight Raidraptor strategy on my channel before, so be sure to look in the description of this video for a link to the prior build. So let's begin with the Phantom Knights. This archetype consists of a group of Xyz-friendly Dark Warriors that banish themselves from the graveyard to give you access to even more Phantom Knights, and their support spell and trap cards. On the spell side, they have rank up magic options, and on the trap side, they have a couple of disruption options that really make them a great toolbox. So let's start with the ubiquitous Phantom Knight monster that's run in any strategy that includes Phantom Knights, the Phantom Knights of Silent Boots. Silent Boots can inherently summon itself from the hand whenever you control a Phantom Knights monster. And then additionally, its banish effect lets it banish itself from the graveyard in order to tutor a spell or trap. In particular, and in most builds, you'll probably be tutoring most frequently Phantom Knight's Fog Blade, since this shuts down the effects of a monster it targets and prevents that monster from attacking. You can also choose to search out the Phantom Knights of Shade Brigadier instead, which basically serves as another rank 4 monster, level 4 monster, since it can be activated the turn it's set as long as you don't have a trap card in the graveyard. This card is going to be particularly useful, especially when we get to some of the more Xyz monsters like Time Thief Redoer, but I don't want to skip too far ahead here on the time stream. Moving along on the Phantom Knight side, we have the next monster that's key to this strategy, which is the Phantom Knights of Ragged Gloves. We're ignoring its effect on the field because it just boosts the effect of an Xyz monster, attack of an Xyz monster, but it can be banished from the graveyard in order to send any Phantom Knights card from the deck to the graveyard. So if you get into the graveyard some way, you can banish it to send perhaps a Silent Boots, or perhaps one of the other Phantom Knight monsters I'm going to cover. But you can also use it to send the traps in as well. So if you send Fogblade to the graveyard, or Phantom Knight's Wing, or Phantom Knight's Sword, they each carry an effect to banish themselves from the graveyard to special summon a Phantom Knight's monster from it. So in other words, you can use these traps not just as a disruption option, or just as an attack boosting protecting option, but it can also extend your plays even further. Continuing down the chain of Phantom Knight support is the Phantom Knights of Ancient Cloak, which can banish itself to tutor any The Phantom Knights card. So this is typically the distinction that's used between the effect monsters and the support cards, but ever since Cloak was released, they've started releasing more spell trap support with The Phantom Knight in the name. So like Shade Brigadier can be searched out by Ancient Cloak, or you can search out Boots or a copy of Ragged Gloves. Lastly, I want to hit on the Phantom Knights of Torn Scales, which can discard a card to send any Phantom Knights card from the deck to the graveyard. So again, very similar to that Ragged Gloves. But additionally, it doesn't banish itself from the graveyard. Instead, whenever any other Phantom Knights card in your graveyard is banished, Torn Scales can special summon itself back, giving you another level 3 monster to work with, especially if you want to do some level 3 or rank 3 Xyz plays. Altogether, and while mentioning the Phantom Knight side of the deck, which is sort of this first row here of my build, I'm also going to mention the Reinforcement of the Army. Since these are all warriors, Reinforcement of the Army is a great option just to tutor out any warrior you need in a specific combo, since you really can just go Boots plus anything else to get 2 monsters on board. So now that I've covered the Phantom Knight side, let's move on to the other dark theme that makes up the majority of the deck, and that's the Raidraptor archetype. The Raidraptors are, very similarly, an Xyz-centric theme, primarily made up of level 4 dark winged beast monsters. And these all revolve around Wing Beast Xyz summons, Dark Xyz summons, and then also some more rank up magic, just like the Phantom Knights. I'll start with Raidraptor Strangulanius here, who can special summon itself from the hand whenever you control a dark monster, albeit it locks you into darks for the rest of the turn. But more interestingly, it can activate its effect to special summon back a dark level 4 or lower monster, a Raidraptor from your graveyard, whenever you control an Xyz monster with a dark Xyz monster as material. So in particular, when you rank up a dark Xyz monster, you can then use Strangulanius' effect to special summon something back from the grave. This will, again, combo later in terms of giving you more materials to make more Xyz monsters, but outside of that, it's just a great extender for your level 4 plays, especially since this is ultimately going to be a rank 4 centric Xyz strategy. Moving along the Raidraptors, we have the tried and true and very simple Singing Lanius, who can just special summon itself from the hand whenever you control an Xyz monster. So, as long as you have an Xyz, this gets you another level 4 directly from the hand. Perfect that it's even searchable. Again, we'll cover later. And so to sort of hit on the next pure Raidraptor card, we have Raidraptor Mimicry Lanius. This Raidraptor takes some effects from the Phantom Knight side, in that it can banish itself from the graveyard, this time to tutor any Raidraptor card, adding it from deck to the hand. And this can be used to search out some of your options, such as a trap I'll cover here in a second on the Phantom Knight side, or on Phantom Knights and Raidraptor side. But you can also use it to tutor out another Raidraptor, like a copy of Strangulanius. One last thing here on the Raidraptor monsters is that the latest wave of legacy support for these two themes actually created some hybrid cards to sort of span the two archetypes and connect the two a little bit more closely than just relying on them both being Xyz strategies. A perfect example of this is Raider's Wing. So it might not have either Phantom Knight or Raidraptor in the title, but it has it as the first line of card text, so it's actually treated as a member of both archetypes. And it can be special summoned from the hand or graveyard by just attaching any material from your Dark Xyz monster. So once you make that first Xyz monster, you can summon that Singing Lanius from the hand. With that same Xyz monster, you can even detach that material and get another level 4. Great, you now have materials for another rank 4 summon. Speaking of that trap that hybrid approach and crosses the two archetypes, I want to highlight Raidraptor's Phantom Knight's Claw now, as this is a counter trap that can negate the effect of an opponent's monster effect. So you just attach a material from your Dark Xyz monster to negate the activation. And then you have a little bit of additional effects, which odds are you're not going to trigger in most duels. So all that said, there's a lot of powerful cards in these two archetypes of Raidraptors and Phantom Knights, but it's only one part of the deck. But since the strategy that I'm covering today is all about making those level 4 monsters to sort of kick things off, what better archetype to turn to next than another archetype that prides itself on making dark rank 4 Xyz monsters, and that's the Time Thieves. So the Time Thieves are all about putting level 4 monsters on the board, stealing the opponent's cards as material, and then converting those materials into beneficial effects. So let me start with Time Thief Regulator. Regulator is sort of like a rescue rabbit, in that whenever you control no monsters, it can be tributed in order to special summon 2 Time Thief monsters with different names from your deck. In particular, you're most likely going to be summoning the first is Time Thief Winder, which can tutor any Time Thief card whenever it's summoned, in addition to having the effect to special summon itself from the hand by detaching a material from an Xyz monster you control. And the second monster you're going to be summoning with that regulator is Time Thief Adjuster. Even if you dead draw Adjuster, you can use its first effect whenever you normal or special summon any Time Thief monster to special summon itself from the hand. You just miss out on this great second effect, which lets you send any Time Thief card from the deck to the graveyard whenever it's summoned. Definitely keep in mind that you can only use one of these two effects, so if you hard draw it, you're pretty much out of luck. But if you do manage to pull it off of Regulator, you actually have a pretty good setup, because that means you can send a Time Thief Bezel Ship directly to the graveyard. Now why Bezel Ship is important is it just serves as another copy of that Raider's Wing, and that it can detach a material from any Xyz monster you control to special summon itself from the graveyard. So yet another dark level 4 that can detach a material from an Xyz monster to special summon and really extend your play further. So moving past the monsters on the Time Thief side, I want to highlight a couple of the options you can choose to search without Winder's effect. While you can grab a monster, odds are you're not going to. But the primary first in choice line for the Time Thieves is this counter trap Time Thief Retrograde. This can be chained to any spell or trap card activation whenever you control specifically a Time Thief Xyz monster, as it negates the activation and attaches that activated card to your Time Thief Xyz monster as Xyz material. This is especially great, especially if you're keeping track, since that Raidraptor's Phantom Knight's Claw negate monsters, this counter trap negates spells of trap activations, and you know what? It's really great to have this trap-based disruption that is so searchable, and that's really the key theme that I'm going to keep coming back to over the course of this strategy. Moving along to the last cards here, this is Time Thief Flyback, which is the other trap of the Time Thief archetype. While its first effect lets you equip or attach any Time Thief card as material from your hand or deck to an Xyz monster you control, its second effect is where it really comes into play, as it can banish itself from the graveyard in order to steal a material from the opponent's graveyard. Chain this to a Monster Reborn, for example, and you can steal that monster right out from the graveyard and equip it to an Xyz monster instead. Kind of a stealthy way for additional disruption that's a little bit more non-traditional in nature. On the spell side of the Time Thief support, we first have Time Thief Hack, which is the continuous spell that boosts the power of your Xyz monsters the turn they're summoned, but it also prevents them from being destroyed by card effects or being targeted by card effects. If you do boost the attack power of your Xyz monster with its effect, that Xyz can even attack directly if it has an opponent's card as Xyz material under it. So, just a fun little bit of protection that also gives you a bit more OTK power in certain circumstances. As for the last Time Thief card, it's Time Thief Startup. This is a pretty non-traditional option for a Time Thief engine, especially since it requires you to be running all the types of Time Thief cards. The first effect is nothing special, it just special summons a Time Thief from your hand on activation, but its second effect is the reason you run it, because it can be banished from the graveyard to attach 3 other Time Thief cards, one of different types, so 1 spell, 1 trap, 1 monster, to a Time Thief Xyz monster as material. So this 100% loads all 3 effects of Time Thief Reviewer whenever we get down to it. So this closes out the Time Thief part of my deck. But we have one more archetype that I really want to hit on, and that's the new Mysterune theme. The Mysterune theme is a set of quick play spell cards that offers quite a bit of disruption and adds more longevity to your game. But what makes it unique is that each quick play spell, in addition to having a disrupting effect, can also be used to special summon a Mysterune fusion monster from the extra deck to your extra monster zone. In particular, this is useful here because the Mysterune have a level 4 dark fusion monster in the existence of Jerry, Fangs of the Mysterune. That means that for each copy of this spell, you can use that to get another Xyz material on the board. Or you can choose, if you're going second, to negate the effects of an effect monster your opponent controls to really try to shut down their opposition or the disruption to your plays as you go second. So this flexible option in that you can disrupt your opponent's disruption when going second, or using it going first to create an Xyz material, or even save for your own disruption, really adds that level of flexibility. I'll cover a couple of other Mysterune cards you can consider including if you want to expand upon this engine, but that'll be in the additional text section at the end. So I have a couple more miscellaneous cards to go, and these next ones were all previewed by the existence of the Raidraptor and the Phantom Knights themes in this deck. As I've talked about both before, they each include an element of the rank up magic. So that's when you try to take an Xyz monster and use a spell card or some other effect to rank up that Xyz monster into another Xyz monster, attaching the previous one as Xyz material. The first option here is the Phantom Knights rank up magic launch. So note that this can be tutored by either Cloak or Boots. and it can be used during the main phase of either player's turn to target a Dark Xyz monster with no material, and special summon one Dark Xyz that's one rank higher. In this case, this will typically be used on a rank 4 Xyz monster to turn up to a rank 5, but in a very limited case, you can turn it from a rank 3 up to a rank 4. Again, I'll get into this later. You can also banish this card from your graveyard to attach a Phantom Knights monster from your hand to a Dark Xyz monster you control, but again, very niche effect that you're probably never going to run into. Moving right along, we have Rank Up Magic Raid Force, so the Raidraptor parallel to that previous spell I just highlighted. Raid Force can target any Xyz monster to special summon specifically a Raidraptor that's one rank higher. So this time we drop the Dark distinction, but this in particular boosts the Raidraptor theme. You can also use a second effect to banish it from the graveyard and a Raidraptor card from your hand to recover another Rank Up Magic spell, but again, that'll most likely not be used in the majority of your duels, so you shouldn't bank on it too much. The last and the most impactful, I'd say, Rank Up Magic of this deck is Rank Up Magic Soul Shade Force. So this spell requires you to pay half your life points, so a pretty hefty cost, but that special summons a Raidraptor Xyz monster from your graveyard before ranking it up by 2 ranks. So it turns into any Xyz monster. So it turns a rank 4 into a rank 6. In particular, you'll probably be making Cyber Dragon Affinity with this. But altogether, that's a pretty cost-free activation of a spell, despite the hefty life point cost. And then it doesn't really cost you too much deck building space. It has no restrictions, just means you gotta add an extra Xyz monster that's 2 ranks higher that you really want to summon. Moving on to our generic catch-all cards to close us out here, we have Foolish Burial, for hopefully obvious reasons, in that it can send any of your Phantom Knight monsters. It can send your Raider's Wing. It can send your Mimicry Lanius. It can send your Time Thief Bezel Ship. It can also send the next card in the deck, which is Supreme King Dragon Darkworm, which is a level 4 dark monster that can special summon itself from the graveyard. I really hope I'm not sounding too much like a broken record here, but this deck really is about summoning as many level 4 dark monsters as possible, and then Xyz summoning with them. And the last option, which I'll talk about expanding in a little bit, is Simurgh Bird of Simurgh Bird of Perfection. And this level 4 Dark Winged Beast can actually be normal summoned from the hand whenever you normal or special summon another Winged Beast monster. So it's another extender, this time whenever you summon any type of your Raidraptor card. So if you summon a Raider's Wing, great, you get another level 4. Again, this engine could be expanded to be a little bit more beneficial, but in this build, I felt like 1 copy was great, so that way you don't double up on getting 2 Bird of Perfections, and then you're in a little bit of an awkward spot. Alright, so this gets us through the main deck. Hopefully you're starting to see some of the connections to these 3 archetypes and how these all might work together, but I think it will really start falling into place whenever I tie it to the extra deck. As mentioned before with the Mysterune card, that's Gary's job. So that's the Fangs of Mysterune. It's a level 4 dark. It's special summoned off your Mysterune spell, and that's all we really need to know. Moving along, let's talk about these sort of Time Thief Xyz monsters first. And we're only running the 2 important ones, which is Time Thief Redoer and Time Thief Perpetua. Let's start with Redoer. Redoer attaches the top card of the opponent's deck each standby phase, but then it can attach any number of different type of card materials to gain these effects. So if you detach a monster when activating its effect, you banish that Redoer until the next end phase. If you detach a spell, you get to draw a card, and if you detach a trap, that just spins a face-up card your opponent controls back to the top of their deck. So, possibly to steal on the next turn with the standby phase effect. What makes Redoer powerful here is that you have a natural way to put a trap card under it in the Phantom Knights of Shade Brigidine. But you're also running all the other Time Thief cards like Retrograde, like Flyback, that really ensure it has the material it needs to be that disruptive force. It's also pretty difficult to nail down, especially when it banishes itself each turn, if you choose to do that. So, definitely a way for self-protection. Even if it does fall, you have Time Thief Perpetua to lean on. Perpetua, during the standby phase, can detach a material to special summon a Time Thief monster from your graveyard. So if you're a redo or whatever, take the plunge into the grave because your opponent figured out a way to destroy it, Perpetua can bring it right back. Perpetua's second effect is a quick effect that lets you load extra Time Thief cards from your deck to any other Xyz monster's material. So if you really need to reload your Cyber Dragon Infinity, Perpetua got you covered. Plus, it's just a generic rank 4 Xyz monster, same with Redoer. So it really can be combined with any of these dark monsters. So now let's get into the really meat and potatoes of the extra deck, and that's the Raidraptor Force Strix. This is your go-to rank 4 monster, as whenever it's summoned, you can then detach a material from it in order to tutor a level 4 Dark Winged Beast. What Dark Winged Beast should you be tutoring? Well, for your first Force Strix, you want to tutor Singing Lanius, because then it can be immediately summoned from the hand. But you have it already. A Raider's Wing can't hurt. Raidraptor Strangle Lanius is a good solution. Or if you have any of these in hand, you can even tutor that some more Bird of Perfection, just to get an extra option on the table. Once you get your Singing Lanius into hand, or have it already, summon the Singing Lanius, and then combined with your initial Force Strix, you can make Raidraptor Y Strix, the Link monster for the theme. As soon as it's summoned, Y Strix will summon a level 4 Dark Winged Beast monster from your deck in defense position, adding on the restriction that it can't be used as Link material. That's no problem for us, because we're actually immediately going to use it for more Xyz material. So as long as you get out that initial Force Strix and have a way to get another level 4, Y Strix will bring out your level 4 number 2, summon out your other monster, and then let's combine those two into a second copy of Force Strix. Now when this Force Strix activates its effect, Y Strix's second effect will trigger, because a Raidraptor Xyz monster effect was activated, which will set a rank up magic spell directly from your deck. If you remember, Soul Shave Force is your key card. You just used a Force Strix, so it's in the graveyard as Link material. So you can Soul Shave that formerly fallen Force Strix right up into a Cyber Dragon Infinity, giving the rest of your plays protection from monster effects or hand traps. This is imperative to be able to get to it so quickly, but it's also a key Omni Negate that will eventually be added to your end board. Speaking of other ways to, beyond this core Xyz combo, and speaking of these other ways that we can disrupt the opponent, I'd be remiss to not mention Evil Swarm Nightmare, which is a rank 4 dark Xyz monster that can just attach a material whenever your opponent special summons to flip that special summon monster face down. I don't know about you, but the potency of a Book of Moon on a trigger effect is very powerful, especially when you have access to it from so much of your deck. And if your opponent's monsters are being flipped face down, they're not being used as Synchro, Link, Xyz material, they're not as powerful. And so Nightmare really does put that blocker if your opponent is trying to play through your disruption with your Infinity, with your counter traps of Claw, and of Fogblade, and of Retrograde. So if you really get to set up your board of Xyz monsters, Nightmare just sort of helps seal the deal. One other essential piece of that hybrid support that Raider's Wing was a part of is the next Raiders monster, Raiders Knight, which is again serves as just a Phantom Knight and a Raidraptor card. This one sort of includes an inherent ability to rank up. So you can detach a material to special summon the Phantom Knights monster, a Raidraptor monster, or an Xyz Dragon Xyz monster from your deck and attach Raiders Knight to it as Xyz material. In particular, you're probably going to be summoning out Arc Rebellion Xyz Dragon, which is a rank 5 that can gain absurd amounts of attack while negating the effects of all of the face-up monsters in the field, especially when you use that Raiders Knight as material. Oh, it also can't be destroyed by effects as well, so that end restriction, or if you want to call it, of Raiders Knight to destroy the monster you summon with it really doesn't apply here, since Arc Rebellion will protect itself. The alternative option is Raiders Knight can also rank down. So if you absolutely need to, you can rank down to rank 3 the Phantom Knights of Breaksword, if you didn't have to use this already to start your combo using 2 of your level 3 Phantom Knight monsters. Whenever this break sword is destroyed, and it can destroy itself, it will special summon 2 Phantom Knight monsters with the same level from your graveyard, increasing the level by 1 and giving you access to your rank 4 toolbox because it's giving you 2 level 4 monsters. As for the last rank up option, that's really Raidraptor Stranger Falcon. So Stranger Falcon, whenever it has any Xyz monster as an Xyz material, it can detach any Xyz material from the card to target an opponent's monster, destroy it, and inflict damage equal to its original attack. So use Stranger Falcon to eliminate high-powered opponent's threats and inflict that damage directly to your opponent. And also, whenever Stranger Falcon is destroyed by your opponent's card, it summons back a Raidraptor from your graveyard, aka Forstrix, and then attaches Stranger Falcon as Xyz material to that Forstrix, which means that you have yet another way to sort of set up more searches if that summon Forstrix manages to survive. Alright, we're almost there in the extra deck, so let's just hit these last cards important. So the first is the Phantom Knights rank, the Phantom Knights of Rusty Bardiche. I'm not really sure how you pronounce this one. But Rusty can send a Phantom Knights monster from the deck to the graveyard to set a Phantom Knights trap directly from your deck to your spell or trap card zone. In particular, you're probably going to use this to set a copy of Fogblade. But in a pinch, you can set a copy of Shade Brigidine to then immediately activate if you don't have any other traps in your graveyard. So altogether, this is all around a good link monster. That's why it was banned for a while. But it also can destroy a card your opponent controls, or technically any card in the field, but you're going to be using it on a card your opponent controls, whenever a Dark Xyz monster is summoned to a zone it points to. In terms of generic Xyz support, none better than Divine Arsenal AA Zeus Sky Thunder, which can overlay on an Xyz monster that battled earlier in the turn, and it can detach 2 cards to send 2 materials to send all other cards from the field to the graveyard. Again, there's really niche scenarios that you actually need to summon Zeus in this deck, but those scenarios where he is useful makes it worthwhile. As for the last option, I really am partial to using Infinitrack Fortress Megaclops in this deck. It's just a big boy. It is unaffected by other monster effects except for Xyz monsters. It summons Xyz back from your graveyard, and it is non-destruction removal by targeting opponent's card that they control in order to attach that to your Xyz monster you're summoning back from the grave as material. Also, if you haven't figured it out yet, this deck is especially good at bringing back monsters to use those 3 Xyz monsters for link material, so it's really no sweat on this deck. So let's talk about this overall strategy. So summing this up in one sentence. So in one sentence, the point of running this combo deck over many others is that the disruptions options that you will set up by playing through your combo will not be entirely monster based. So a lot of heavy combo decks will set up a Baron. It'll set up a Herald of the Arclight. It'll set up a Borreload Savage Dragon. But all those rely on monsters to negate. So something like any sort of, like a Forbidden Droplet, for example, that would shut down a monster, or monster effects that, and preventing responses to it, is able to then unlock the breaking of your board. Whereas with a diversified disruption option in the form of Retrograde, in the form of Phantom Knight's Claw, in the form of Fogblade, in addition to those Omni Negates such as Infinity, with the addition of a Nightmare or with the addition of some other options, you have a diversified way of disrupting the opponent's plays. Remember, you can even look to flyback to steal cards away from the opponent's graveyard before they activate. Or you can just spin stuff back to the top of their deck with Redoer. While you might not have all of these options out on the board every single game, you'll certainly have enough with almost any hand, even if it's just a meh hand, to at least put out an Infinity, a Bardiche, with at least one Fogblade set. And that's with a bad hand. With a good hand, and I'll rank good as starting with Regulator, you'll be able to do much better than that. With great hands, you're definitely able to hit all of these things, sometimes even with a Mysterune left over to negate an opponent's monster effect. Altogether, this deck really is about comboing Xyz monsters to set up heavy disruption to sort of test the opponent to break your board, and they're not always going to be able to do that. So, as I said at the very beginning, there's always room for optimization, so definitely find ways to fit in your own spin on this strategy. I know hybrid Raidraptor Phantom Knight decks aren't all too uncommon at this point, but it's definitely something to look into as a unique... I don't want to classify it as a rogue, but Phantom Knights by itself with Adventure has been seeing some meta play recently, so there's definitely some appetite for using some of these cards in competitive strategies. But since there is some of that flexibility, definitely wanted to jump to talking through some additional tech options that you can look into if you do want to build this your own way and perhaps take some of these ideas to expand your deck out a bit. I'm going to start with a Mysterune because that's the easiest to suggest some alternative options for. If you really want to, you have two other options in Mysterune the Brilliant Flame, which destroys an opponent's special summon monster, or you can look to Mysterune of Destruction, which destroys a spell or trap card. This ultimately is just extra card removal with spell cards that also double as additional level 4 fusion monsters. If you do diversify your Mysterune, so have one of each, or have a bigger than 3 card engine in the main deck, definitely include a second copy of Gary, so that way you can summon multiple out if you get multiple Mysterune cards. The next option is building on that single copy of Samorg Bird of Perfection by expanding the Samorg engine to 2 additional copies of Perfection and a copy of Elbor's The Sacred Land of Samorg. Whenever it's summoned, you can actually use its effect to send a Samorg monster to the graveyard, which can be another copy of Bird of Perfection to tutor any Samorg spell or trap. And in particular, Elbor's lets you normal summon an additional Wing Beats monster in addition to your additional normal summon of that Samorg Bird of Perfection. So it's just another way if you would happen to dead draw extra Raidraptor monsters, or if you're looking to expand the Raidraptor component of this deck, you might want to expand the Samorg engine as well, since that does let you get extra Raidraptors out of your hand if you do dead draw them. For the Time Thief side, really the only pertinent card to include would be Time Thief Temp Whaler as an additional option to send to the graveyard under Time Thief Adjuster. The benefit to this is that if you summon with Regulator, summon out the Winder and the Adjuster will send Temp Whaler to the graveyard, and then Temp Whaler will return that Winder back to the hand to special summon itself. Ultimately, it's the same combo of getting 3 level 4 monsters off the activation of Regulator as Bezel Ship. Just Bezel Ship includes an additional effect to tribute itself to attach a card from your opponent's graveyard to your Time Thief Xyz monster. So for that reason, I prefer Bezel Ship, but you can look to Temp Whaler for extra banishing for until the end phase if you absolutely need it, but odds are you're not going to resolve that effect too often. In terms of other generic level 4 dark monsters to use as Xyz material, you have Abyss Actor Curtain Raiser, which can just special summon itself from the Pendulum Zone. No description needed there. Or Danger Mothman, which you can reveal from your hand. Hopefully your opponent picks any other card, and then it special summons itself and draws a card. As a reminder, this deck can use any generic spells and traps to sort of bolster out that disruption board, in addition to the ones that you're already running here. So, options like Forbidden Droplet or Infinite Impermanence, both of which are flexible for both going second and going first, are optimal here, since all those options just add to your disruptive capabilities and the best boards that your deck can put out. And since you're running so many consistent spells, traps, you can look to running Lord of the Heavenly Prison as additional tech, primarily by setting the Shade Brigidine, and then whenever you activate it, the turn it's set, you probably can special summon that Lord of the Heavenly Prison from your hand, and then you have an extra monster to use as a dark link material. So specifically, that's helpful for getting out your Rusty. If you're looking to expand your pool of rank 4 monsters, here's 2 options to consider. The first is Ga 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 Magician, which can detach a material to special summon an Xyz monster from your graveyard. That gets you 2 Xyz monsters. That's 2 of 3 needed for your Mega Clops. It also works if you're interested in running number F0 Utopic Future, since you'd then have 2 rank 4 Xyz monsters of the same rank. In terms of an alternative option, you can look to King of the Feral Imps, which is a rank 4 just like Force Tricks that can detach a material to add a reptile. In this case, you're adding the Reptilian Codal, who can special summon itself from the hand whenever you control a dark reptile, which is King of the Feral Imps. So it's just like that initial copy of Force Tricks, except you're doing it with reptiles, and the 2 reptiles cannot link into Y Strix. So something to keep in mind, it's just an extra way to get another Xyz monster, dark Xyz monster as part of your combo, if you are aiming for the Mega Clops end board. As for the last monster, I'm sort of limited here on the side deck space to throw additional tech options, but this is the last one I really wanted to highlight, which is Raidraptor Blaze Falcon. This is a great option to rank up your Raidraptor into. So if you rank up your Force Tricks by 1, such as with a Raid Force, you can summon this, which, 1, it can attack your opponent directly, and when it inflicts battle damage, it can destroy a monster your opponent controls. Additionally, you can detach a material to destroy all special summon monsters your opponent controls, so that's just a great way to clear out their board if you do need an extra bomb in the extra deck to really clear that out. So yeah, that's all. We made it to the end of this profile. So hopefully you understood my justification for building this hybrid combo Dark Xyz strategy, featuring so many different archetypes. We had the Phantom Knights, we had the Raidraptors, we had the Time Thieves, we had the Mysterune, we even had some Morg splashed in, talk about rank up magic. Yeah, this deck fits in a lot. But ultimately, it's a Xyz combo deck that really builds out your disruption options beyond monster effects. And at the end of the day, that's what's important here, is to have that diversified disruption able to prevent your opponent's plays, stop them from playing the game, while still allowing you the flexibility to go first and to go second and break their board too. So thanks for listening. I hope you take this and go build this deck better yourself and really make it your own. And I'll definitely catch you soon with brand new profiles coming both later this week and next week. I'm going to turn over some replays now, so Quincy out.